Good evening, everyone. Just checking for audio. All right, folks. Okie dokie. Let's see if everything is working as it should be. How many viewers we got? Wow. Okay, we're starting off strong. We've got 46 people waiting. All right. Well, we better get started then. Okay, folks. Welcome back to another Firestorm stream. My name's Pat, and we're going to be continuing our A to Z of sculpting creatures in Zbrush series. I hope everyone is doing well and you're enjoying your week so far and that it started well. So today, or today's session, we're going to be starting the creation of our Chupacabra. That's the creature I chose to do for the letter C. Unlike previous streams, we don't actually have a concept for this. So this is going to be a bit more of an exploration of just an idea I have in my head based on the description of a chupacabra and various animal references that I've pulled up. Okay. Now, for any of you not aware of what a chupacabra is, music sound was booming, mic is a bit low, and we're still on the stream starting screen. Interesting. Shouldn't be. I'm seeing you might have to refresh 3D Manic. Let me just fix the mic. Hold on, 2 seconds. See how this does. Okay, that should fix the mic. We're now into the yellow, so that should hopefully help with the audio. Hey, CC. All right, folks. So, like I said, we're going to be working away. We're going to start working on our Chupacabra. Now, a Chupacabra, if you're not aware of, is a cryptid. So it's a mythical or, not known to science officially creature. So there's lots of folklore and all this kind of thing. Haircut or am I insane? No, yes, I have had a haircut. I had a haircut this morning, everyone. I had a haircut this morning. So with the cryptids, obviously we don't really have a definitive look that we're going for. We're just going to have a bit of fun and see what we can create over the next couple of sessions. But obviously I wanted something to start with. So what I've done as a little bit of prep is I've used the Lightbox here and I went into the Zizu catalog. I really wanted to use this as an example because I've mentioned it several times and we're actually working with animals a lot. So I wanted to show people what you could actually get from this library directly in Zbrush, just to give you a starting point. So what I've done is I brought in a goat because Chupacabra, as far as I'm aware, the direct translation from the Spanish is goat sucker. So they apparently suck the blood of goats. That's what they prey on. So I thought what we'll do is we'll start with a goat, and that can be our base for our creature to sit on, and then we'll kind of work up from there. And like I said, the reference here is just going to be various animals that people have likened the Chupacabra to, as well as the description of the creature itself. And there's a couple of different descriptions. Sometimes it's a reptile or reptilian kind of creature. Sometimes it's like a dog-like creature. I'm kind of going to try and go for something in between. Let me just catch up on the chat here. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Chupacabra is a good one. Looking forward. Yeah, me too. I don't really know what's going to happen here, folks. We'll just have to wait and see. But what I've done is I've brought in the goat Z tool here. And something I want to point out here is that if I turn the floor on, you'll see that our goat is obviously standing up, which makes sense, you know, that's an obvious, it can make sense. However, I want it lying down on its side. However, one of the downsides with using Z-spheres is that the central kind of area is sometimes a bit hard to rotate everything in one go. So, hey, Holly, thanks for coming along. So what I've done instead is I've added in a cube on the side of the goat. And all I'm doing is I'm going to adjust my camera position like this and rotate the model onto its side. And then I'm going to work up on kind of posing this goat as our warm-up. That's what we're going to do here, folks. We're going to be using the goat as our warm-up. So I want to create this goat that's been unfortunately attacked, shall we say, by our Chupacabra. And we're going to use the Zizou animal to block this out. And again, folks, remember that with this series, we're not aiming for finalized models. That's not the real goal for this. The goal for this is just to be kind of creative, just to kind of work out an idea quickly, and then it's something that we can then revisit later on, okay? Which I think could be a lot of fun. And I think it's something that we'll do in the Firestorm Discord, where we'll do a vote for which creature people prefer, and then we'll work that up into a final model. So you can see here, this is the great thing about these Zizou animals. I can very quickly block out a poor goat that has been, has come, as we would say in Scotland, he's come a cropper. He's come a cropper of ran afoul of a Chupacabra. So we'll just rotate that there, and there we go. Let's get that ear down as well. That's fine. I think that'll do as a starting point, folks. Okay. As always, everyone, please feel free to reach out in the chat, ask questions regarding what it is we're working on now, or it can be a general sculpting question, a general Zbrush question, or just a general industry question, and I'll do my best to answer as best as possible. But I do want to invite you all to check out the links below, so you can check out our Twitch, our YouTube, and our Instagram, and you can also look up the Firestorm Discord and join that as well. All right. So now that I've got our poor goat lying in the mud, I'm just going to take my clean clay brush and just work up a little bit of an environment for him to lie in, like so. So we're kind of going for a bit of a diorama here, all right, which I thought might be a bit of fun. Very Christmassy. We could have him lying in the snow. How about that? This can be our Christmas theme. It's dark, I'll give you that, but it could be quite fun. And I already know what we're going to be doing for the letter D as well. We will be doing a dodo, so I hope no one's disappointed with that. There we go. Nice and fast. Again, we don't have to spend hours and hours on one thing. Don't try not to get too lost in details early on with anything you do. Just try to be a little bit more, freer with it. It doesn't really matter if it looks rubbish to other people. I know that's going to sound weird, but if somebody else goes, "Oh, I don't like that," it's like, well, okay, they don't like it. You like it. It's your artwork. And that doesn't mean you can't take nice constructive criticism from people, or constructive criticism to improve things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're doing personal work, the person you're trying to please is yourself, no one else. And you can do whatever you want with your work. If you want your goat to have 6 legs, you can make your goat have 6 legs. Nothing says Christmas like a goat with broken legs. This is true, yes. Okay. See, I'm actually desperate to make a Star Wars reference here. And by Star Wars, I mean proper Star Wars, as in the original trilogy Star Wars. And I can just imagine anyone who's watching this that likes all the Star Wars. It's like, what? What do you mean the best kind? It is. I'm sorry. I'm an OG Star Wars trilogy guy. Okay, now that we've got the goat there, so I'm going to duplicate the goat, and I'm going to put the original version, or the Z-Sphere version, in a folder, same as we have many times before. So I'm just going to call this archive, and that just gives me a duplicate. Next, we're going to go into our, where is it? Adaptive skin. Hit preview. Need to hide my other version there. Now, one of the differences you'll notice with the Zizu animals is that, you know, the adaptive skin on them will look a little bit different from what you're maybe used to, okay? It won't blend together the same way. So all I'm going to do with that is hit make adaptive skin, and then append that. And remember, every time you hit adaptive skin in ZBrush, it's going to copy it into your subtool palette. Okay, it's going to make a copy, and it's going to give it the prefix skin underscore and then the name of your item. All right, and then we can just append that directly in to our model. Okay, and then that way I can put this original one in there, and we can work on the goat. So I'm just going to call that goat corpse, just to be extra special rubbish and kind of creepy and gross for Christmas. What's this? Reference being look inside the tauntaun. Exactly. A gorps. Did I write gorps? A gorps. No, that's even better. I like that. Goat corpse. Gorps. Excellent. All right, folks. Also, something to mention is I tend to go quite fast when I'm working. So if I'm going through something and it's a little bit too fast, please feel free to shout out in the chat and ask me to redo it if you need me to do so. All right. Sometimes when I go through certain tasks in ZBrush, it is a little bit of muscle memory, and even though we're kind of in a semi-teaching mode at the moment, I'm not kind of doing like a full class. This is just like a stream for the workflow. So you'll have to forgive me if I sometimes go a little bit faster, okay? But I also don't want... We got a follower. Vayu, okay. That's Vayu, great. Thank you very much for the follow, Vayu. And what we're now going to do here is, with this model here, we're going to go into our gizmo. We're going to go down to remesh by union. Okay, so we've got multiple subdivisions. This is quite common. ZBrush doesn't like certain functions in ZBrush will not work if you have multiple subdivisions. So a couple of options. You can either duplicate your model and then delete your lowers. You can use free subdivision levels, right? And then carry out your the function that you want, but sometimes it will give you an error, for example, like this here. So generally what I tend to do is I just delete the lower, because generally when I'm doing a remesh by union, I'm going to be changing the mesh later on anyway. So for me, it doesn't really matter. Now it's giving me another error. Not to worry. We'll just hit accept. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down Shift to get my smooth. I'm going to tap on my Sculptris Pro. And you'll know you're in Sculptris Pro mode because you will get a purple icon around your cursor. If I hold down Shift, it's going to go yellow. That lets me know I'm in smooth. And then as I work over some of the forms, I can blend these together very, very quickly. And generally when you're working with this, try not to try not to just create one large stroke, okay? Unless you're really, really sure what it is you want to do. So if you're new to using Sculptris Pro, just do smaller strokes or tap the surface with your pen, okay? Lurk, lurk, lurk. Hey, Patricia, how you doing? Thank you for coming along for a lurk. So what we've ended up here with is a bit of a hole. That's not a big deal, because remember, this goat isn't really the focus of our model, really. This is just our starting point. So I'm just going to do something like that. I'm going to hit a close holes, and there we go. Let's grab our inflate brush, and we can use that to plump up some of the areas that have lost a little bit of volume. I'm going to turn off Sculptris Pro here. So lost a bit of volume in the leg here. And there we go. I'm going to be a bit more careful with the horns. I'm going to reduce the size of my brush here, and when you reduce the size of your brush with Sculptris Pro, it's going to give you more density, okay? So bear that in mind. The larger you make the brush, the more destructive the Sculptris Pro will be. So for example, if I wanted to rid the world of these ears, I could increase the brush size and then just do Sculptris Pro and do something like this, okay? So you can create some really neat effects with it, okay? But we don't want that. We want to keep everything. All right. So turn off Sculptris Pro, and I'm just going to, oh, lost pressure sensitivity. There we go. Just going to do a little bit of extra, just a wee bit of tweaking. There's a few things that are bothering me. But we'll probably come back to the goat at some point. Okay. And I'm just going to change the environment a little bit, just add a bit more volume behind it here. Trying to think of as though our creature has kind of pushed it through the snow a little bit as it's been doing its thing. So this is the kind of thing I think about whenever I'm designing creatures, or sculpting creatures, really. Because I've never considered myself to be a creature designer. I'm a creature sculptor. I let people who can actually design things and draw things better than me create the kind of cool designs. But sometimes I like to kind of just, be a rebel and try it out myself from time to time. So there we go. Okay. Excellent. A goat in the snow. So we'll just hit save as, and now we'll start working on our Chupacabra. So we're going to be using the same techniques I've used before in the last couple of sessions. We're going to be using Z-spheres to block out the general overall proportion of our creature. And I want to kind of stress this. I have no design in mind. Absolutely no idea. So I'm literally going to be designing as we go. And that's part of the goal of this series, is to help bring new artists, or beginner artists, or just artists in general, along for the ride as we figure this out. Mainly to kind of help take away because I think there can sometimes be a bit of a misconception that artists with more experience find everything a lot easier. Now, to a certain degree, that's true, but it's more just down to experience and knowing what will or will not work. But I've been working in the industry for 17 years now, and I still find things really difficult, and things will always go wrong. And that's what I want to kind of help demonstrate with this stream. Okay. Oh, we have a question. Excellent. What's this? Hello, got a question. How do you keep enjoying your craft when expectations, lack of skill, harmful beliefs, and financial pressure start to drain the joy out of it? I found myself severely burned out, but I want to reconnect with that passion. How would you approach this? Sorry if slammed too heavy. No pressure for answer. Okay, so that's an excellent question for one thing, before I answer it, I think it's a very common thing for artists in general to feel exactly like this, where you do find yourself burned out. And I think a lot of it is to do with the abundance of work that we see and the abundance of, imagery that we see every day. And sadly, things like AI aren't really helping that, because it's setting a very high bar in some regards. People think, oh, I need to get to that good. Or the art of somebody else, they go, I need to get to this level. You don't. You don't have to get to that level instantaneously, and nobody does. Nobody does get to an incredibly high level of artistry overnight. It takes time and dedication, okay, and discipline and consistency. So that's something to bear in mind. And I think I've mentioned this before in previous streams, that you just want to do a little bit every day, which sounds cliched, I know, but you do just want to do a little bit every day. That's the key to not burning yourself out, is to do small amounts and keep it measured. Okay. There is something called the 70% rule. I read this several years ago. And you know what it is. There's always these little rules that people say you should work by. And the reason that there's lots of them is that not everybody, all these rules, they're not always going to work for everybody. You need a different rule for different personalities in order for it to click, in order for it to work, okay? Because all of us have different ways of interpreting the world around us, okay? So, to try and answer your question, how do I keep enjoying my craft how do I keep enjoying it? I'll be honest with you, I don't always enjoy it. And from the professional side of it, that can be actually one of the hardest things to enjoy the most, is because that can sometimes feel a bit more draining, because you don't have a choice in what it is you create on a day-to-day basis. So in order to continue enjoying what I do, I make sure that I actually spend time doing the things I enjoy. And what I mean by that is not necessarily doing artwork or sculpting. I do other things that I enjoy on a day-to-day basis. You cannot just sit in front of a screen all day and expect things to improve, okay? And this is again how we get burned out, because we sit for 8-9 hours a day just sculpting, or rigging, or modeling, or animating. No. Something I've learned over the years is that it is equally as important to do things away from what it is that we love. Okay, so the passion, the art, go and do something else. Find another hobby. Everyone has several hobbies, or might have several hobbies. Find something else that you enjoy doing that isn't anything to do with art. Having that time away is what's going to give you that energy back in order to sit down and go, yeah, I really want to sculpt. It's kind of along the lines of, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So if you're not doing something all the time, whether or not you are doing it as a personal thing or as a job, if you don't do it all the time, you will retain more energy to be able to do it consistently and with more discipline. So if you're finding yourself burned out, then the best advice I can give is to walk away. Not forever. You need to take a break. Okay, and it's very, very hard because I know exactly what would be going through your head. You're like, but if I take a break, I won't be able to get a job, or I won't be able to progress as an artist. Wrong. I took an entire year away from the industry because I was burned out. And when I returned, I was a better artist for it. I was a better artist, and I was a better person for it because I'd taken that time away. And when I and taking about a year away from doing all of it, anything to do with visual effects, anything to do with CG, I came back with more clarity, and I could see what it is I really needed to do, and I could see where I needed to focus on things. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. If you are burned out, there's a reason you're burned out. It's because you're doing too much of one thing. You have to step back, find something else, that gives you joy, makes you happy. Spend time with your family, with loved ones, with friends. Go hiking, go swimming. It's that kind of thing. Okay, so hopefully, Vayu, that answers your question. Kind of. Again, it's a very, very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do. And there, Patricia's got I'll have a good answer for you as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, before we actually start building our Chupacabra, remember at the beginning, we actually moved everything onto its side from another angle, okay, just because of the way everything was. So really, our model is actually sitting like this, with our Y being up, okay? So we need to fix this so that it's actually lying flat. So to do that, we're going to go into C plugin, Transpose Master, T-Pose Mesh. And then I'm going to turn off my perspective, and I'm just going to rotate that down by 90 degrees, and then come back out of that. For this kind of thing can only give a personal take for me, what keeps me going, specific things that remind me of the times when I was really inspired to doing art. That can be anything from change over time. This video someone did. See, yeah, there we go. Patricia's there with a really amazing answer as well. That's exactly it. You find things that inspire you, and it can be anything. I mean, the video I was talking about. Amazing. Thanks, Patricia. Thank you for that. And I guess as well, I think for me is that I've always enjoyed what I do. It's why I got into it. It's and again, you go back to what actually makes you first get into it. Like Patricia's saying there, you find something that kind of reignites that, and it can be absolutely anything. I mean, for me, when I'm looking for inspiration, one of the books I always go back to is one of the books that first got me into that helped me become a better painter, better artist in general, and it's actually a book by Boris Vallejo, and it's one of his sketchbooks that I was gifted years and years ago, and simply flicking through his sketchbook is enough to inspire me to want to create art, and it can be as simple as that as well. Okay, so as I said, hopefully that answers your question between myself and Patricia. It's a very, but feel free to, if you want more clarification, by all means, fire another question in the chat. All right, this is why we're here, folks. This is the whole point of having a community like this. Wow, we have dropped in viewers. That was interesting. Wow. Okay. That's what's so important about having a community like this. Okay. All right. Interesting. Oof. We've are sleeping. Wow. From 50 odd viewers to 7. Is it something I said? Or maybe people don't like dead goats. This could be something to bear in mind. This could be something to bear in mind. All right, folks. So, hopefully that answered the question. Hopefully that answered the question. Where is my backface mesh? There it is. Right. So I'm just going to fill in the bottom while I'm thinking. They went to take that long break. Yeah, maybe I kind of pushed that home too much. Oops. Right, folks. So now that we have our goat actually in the right orientation, we can now start thinking about our Chupacabra. So we're going to append a Z-sphere. And in my head, I have this image of the Chupacabra kind of crouched over it, crouched over the goat. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly block out the Chupacabra itself that I have in my head. And see where we go. Okay. I'm not surprised. I have a Chupacabra in my head. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Although these spheres are being a bit weird, I'm going to have to delete this and start again. Okay, let's try you again. That's weird. Append Z-sphere. Okay, let's just grab the Z-sphere and we'll focus on the Chupacabra. So one of the descriptions, which I've always found really weird, is that apparently it's like a kangaroo. That was one of the descriptions I read, that it hops around like a kangaroo. I mean, as cryptids go, the Chupacabra to me just feels so obvious that it's a misidentified mangy dog. Apologies to burst your bubbles there, folks, if you thought they were real. So there we go. So I've got, the thing is, there's actually a great concept that I found that I really wanted to use. But unfortunately, I reached out to the artist and the artist never got back to me, so I can't use it. So I've decided to go in a completely different direction than their concept, which is a shame because it's an absolutely cracking concept. Pat, what is your favorite cryptid? Oh, easy, werewolf. 100%. Werewolf is my favorite of all cryptids and mythical creatures. We even have a very special type of werewolf in our Scottish folklore, but they're not. They're very strange. They leave fish. They're called wolvers in Scottish folklore, and instead of hunting people, they leave fish on your windowsill. I know it's really weird, but that's what they do. Allegedly, that's the story of the wolvers. So I think what we might also end up doing here is we might end up posing the character and sculpting in pose, which is always a bit dangerous, I know, but again, it's something else to kind of showcase here on the stream, something for people to do, check out. So There we go. What's this? Appreciate your answer taking this. I found myself isolating for a few years, recently started breaking this pattern. I got into botany and it actually helped me tremendously. So I see the importance of outside hobbies. Great. Thank you, Vayu. I'm glad that that helps. And thank you for being so open as well. That's very, it's a difficult thing to do, to be open about that type of thing, you know, when you're struggling. Um, so I'm kind of going for, the plan I have is kind of like somewhere between this kind of reptilian thing with red eyes as one of the descriptions. I'm kind of going with that, but with a little bit of mangy dog in there as kind of the head, and a little bit of vampire. I know that sounds weird, but it might make sense. A nice short snout. There we go. And I read as well that I read another. I mean, I like this idea of the kangaroo thing. I find really funny. I find that like a really funny description. So the idea that it's got these kind of quite long, flat feet. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, kangaroos are. I mean, those are animals I would not want to cross. I think I'd rather meet a chupacabra in the wild than a kangaroo. I've seen how vicious kangaroos can be. Okay. Werewolves are cool. Werewolves are cool. I guess it's weird. I mean, I think in cryptid terms, they're known as dogmen. In the cryptid kind of sense. But obviously, in folklore, they're werewolves. So I think Bigfoot probably ranks up there as well in terms of cryptids. Oh, and the Mothman. I mean, generally, I just like cryptids. So Mothman is one of my favorites as well. I love the kind of the Point Pleasant kind of stories of these things. So change the size of the brush, get this. So as I said, folks, I mean, if I'm kind of running through this too quickly about what it is I'm creating, then please, by all means, just reach out and shout at me and I'll stop. But I'm kind of trying to kind of showcase here exactly what I was talking about at the beginning. You know, it's not that you shouldn't think about the design that you're doing, but try not to get too hung up on the minutia when you're trying to flesh something out like this. Because it can all be changed. That's why I like working with Z-spheres, because all of this can be changed very, very quickly. Just add in another, oh, what did I do there? Oh, that's fine. There we go. Did I double that up? I think I have. There we go. So all I'm doing here as well, by the way, folks, is when you're working with Z-spheres, the Headless Horseman, I'd say yes. Yeah, the Headless Horseman is definitely, I would consider a cryptid, you know, because he's folklore as well. So yeah, 100%. I am a particular fan of the Headless Horseman. Yes, Manic, that's correct. The Tale of Ichabod Crane. Which is one of my favourite stories, actually. Maybe that's a bit much in terms of the, but we'll go for it. There's also a description of it being kind of like a monkey, having kind of monkey-like gibbon kind of arms, which I quite like the idea of as well, having it quite lengthy arms, but kind of skinny. So, oops, did I turned off symmetry there? There we go. The Mongolian deathworm. I think it might be. That rings a bell. Value. It does ring a bell. Mothman's my fave. Polly. Yep. That's a good one. That's a good one. Mothman is. It's a worthwhile favorite for sure. All right, folks. Let's take a look at what we've got. And I'm going to move. I'm going to adjust the object around. My base around the creature, just to make my life a bit easier. That looks kind of cool. I'm quite liking that. Okay, Z plugin, T-pose mesh. Selected subtool is not a polymesh. Okay, fair enough. All right, so instead of using the T-pose mesh, what we're going to do instead is we're going to hide this, and I'm going to use the sets here instead. So to do this, the way I do it anyway, hide anything you don't want to move, and then if you go into the gizmo and you tap the pizza boxes on the right hand side, this is going to create yourself a selection set, technically. Okay, it's a transpose set, which allows you to then turn on other objects in the scene and then move them about and scale them all at the same time. Okay, and it can be a lot easier than having to go over to your Z plugin, T-pose mesh, that type of thing, particularly when you're working with Z-spheres in your scene, because like you just saw, they don't always work properly with Z-spheres. Okay, so now that that's in place, what I think I might do here is rotate our GURPS around, and I'm going to move it into position. Like I said, I'm going to work around the Z-sphere. And this is something as well that you have to kind of bear in mind as well, folks, is that, try and work as smart as possible. Work around limitations of your software, work around limitations of our feature set in order to make things work the way you need them to, okay? So already I'm starting to like how this is coming together. Looks about right height-wise. It's apparently 3 foot high, approximately. And I'm a bit of a stickler for these kind of details. So I'm going to turn off my dynamic here. I'm going to grab the brush, not the brush, sorry, my base. I'm going to scroll down, and you can see I've got a few lumps in there. So I'm just going to hold down Control and then use Scale to clip the bottom of that object. And then we're going to do another. I think we're going to do a save. So no, do not do save next. I want to be able to save it manually, thanks. A to Z, Chupacabra, Z tool, 5. Another thing as well, folks, is I have switched up things like the camera and my working environment. I'm now working off of a Cintiq. So when you see me looking off to the left, I'm looking at my reference, and I've got the chat up to my right now, and it's a little bit easier, a bit more comfortable for me to kind of work. And I actually wanted to use my Cintiq because it does make things a lot quicker and things like that. Right, okay, let's get started with the posing. So let's let me see here. What do I want to do? kind of want him sitting kind of crouched down a bit more. So we might have to move we're probably going to have to move things again, but that's not a big deal. So again, we'll grab this, do the pizza box. Because I have Z-spheres in the scene, it's just, I don't even need to hide the Z-spheres. It'll just ignore them because it's a Z-sphere. It's not a polymesh. It's something a little bit different. So what's this? I really love the Z-sphere, but I don't know why. It just feels a lot more work to me to flesh out the armature. I prefer making the block out with spheres, starting with rib cage these days, granted. So again, yeah, there's nothing wrong with starting off with a literal primitive block out phase, because it comes down to what's comfortable for you. I've always liked the Z-spheres. Ever since I started using ZBrush and I first tried them out, I was like, this is cool, because for me, I can liken it to my kind of traditional sculpting and making armatures and applying clay. So for me, and that's something I used to do, but I was never very good at it, really. I was never a great kind of clay sculptor, but I really enjoyed working with armatures and things like that. So for me, using creating the creature with a Z-sphere is the most useful for me, you know. And again, like I've said in previous streams, ideally for me, it stops me getting dragged down into details, because I can't, you know, I actually can't get into details. I'm going to delete that that Z-sphere because it was bothering me a bit. So what we're going to do here is, right, I'm going to turn off symmetry because we're now going to start breaking the pose a little bit. Oops. Now that wasn't supposed to happen. There we go. And you will find that sometimes with these spheres, they don't really work the way you expect them to. But so in my head, I have this idea that he's been caught. Like someone's about to take a photograph of him. And while he's kind of feasting on this this poor goat. Couldn't even remember the name of the animal. Shocking. Right, so there we go. See, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, when I used to use it, they were difficult to get right. They are difficult to get right, 100%. But again, it's like anything in ZBrush. It's like, for example, fiber mesh. I don't really use fiber mesh very often because I don't particularly like the workflow. I don't like the kind of the fact that I have to kind of set everything to a camera. It's like camera based. Everything else in ZBrush that's camera based, I'm fine with. But with fiber mesh, I was never able to really enjoy the process, so I use it very rarely. I still use it, and we're probably going to actually think we'll use it for this creature as well. And this creature might be the first one that we do over more than 2 sessions. I might actually do this as a multi-session one, because I do like the idea is quite cool. I like the idea. I understand if he's upset. I don't like it when people. Well, I think that it's fair. Do you know what I mean? You know, nobody really likes to be interrupted when they're eating. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab, so I'm just going to try and trying to figure out the pose here. So I'm going to bring the scapula back, the shoulder back, bring the arm up. What we might do actually, because we want to have a nice clean, there we go. And what will probably happen is, folks, is that the things like the fingers and stuff and the claws, they will probably be redone. Yeah, I'm not liking the way that they're too complicated at this point. So what we'll do is we'll jump back to draw here, and I'm going to knock out some of the joints. That's better. That looks better already. And I kind of want this kind of almost like he's protecting his kill type thing. So now, I don't know how many of you have seen the TV series The Strain. If not, I would recommend it if you're into vampires and stuff. It's really cool. There we go. See, I liked the kangaroo feet initially. I don't know if I like them anymore. I don't know if I like the kangaroo feet. I might just go for good old, like I said, folks, I'm not a creature designer as such, but I do like, but I sculpt them. So I want to make sure that the balance for this is right. There we go. Let's bring this up a bit, and then bring that down. There we go. And the idea is I want this to kind of look cool from a lot of different angles. I don't want it to just look cool from one angle. I want it to work from multiple. So, and you can see here, obviously, I'm changing the length of the arms. So I've got to be really careful to try and match it. But this is one of the challenges of when you're working on a model that's in pose. This is one of the challenges. It's something I would recommend everyone do, is sculpt in pose. And remember that it doesn't mean that you can't cheat in Zbrush. You can have the pose set, and then you can go away, sculpt the arms symmetrically, and then put them into place and dynamesh them, and then repose them piece by piece. You can bring it together as a separate entities. So don't feel as though you're stuck with that. So let's see here. There we go. I think it needs a thumb. I think it needs a thumb. So we're going to add in a thumb. Even just a claw would be kind of cool. And I think we're going to increase the size of, there we go. And yes, it does mean you're having to do certain things twice, but honestly, that's something that you will have to get used to if your goal is the industry. Doing things twice, 3 times, a million times is going to happen, folks. So How are we doing? We haven't got our numbers back. I apologize. My apologies to the Firestorm team. Okay. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, I've got rid of those. That's fine. So we'll just. There we go. And we have spikes as well. There's going to be some spikes coming off this dude. So I'm just going to draw a few in to help with the, just to help me with the silhouette here. Whoa, what did I do there? Oops. So get a few more in here. There we go. We don't want them to be perfect. I hate it when things are like, perfectly aligned on creatures. I've always been one of those, let's make everything look messy. It takes much longer, but if you make everything look messy, I just think it makes it look more real. Whoop, there we go. Oh, wait a minute, added in some extras. We don't want that. Get rid of that. So, is that too much? Yeah, it's a bit much. I don't know. I think I might want taller ones at the top, but let's go for some smaller ones on the back here. Yeah, that's better. And then we'll do one last one. Let's just draw one more spike on the back. And I do understand I'm going to say trepidation, the issue that sometimes can arise with using Z-spheres. I know that they can be quite problematic. But remember, something that you don't need to do is you don't need to use you don't actually have to make this an adaptive skin. So, Manic, you were mentioning about that you prefer to use primitive blockouts. You could, of course, make a rough armature just to get the pose right, and then you could bring in your primitive shapes and layer it on top. So again, there's all these different ways that you can do things. What's this? Are there less streams happening over the next few weeks with it being Christmas and New Year? I'll be streaming for Firestorm next week. And then I think I'm back on the 29th of... So yeah, I'm taking the Christmas week off and then I'll be back. Myself personally. I'm not sure about the rest of the team, but there will be announcements for those. So all right. Well, Mr. Chupacabra, we need a name for him, folks. Chupi just doesn't sound good. It gives me Hero 3 Troglodyte vibes. It actually was a reptile now that I think about it. Heroes 3. I've never seen that, so I don't know what that is. Is Heroes 3 Troglodyte? Nope. Don't know what that is. Charlie. Thank you, Cece. That's a good one. Charlie the Chupacabra. Oh dear, that's really cold tea. Okay, we need to switch over to drink number 2. There we go. How long have we been sculpting? Wow, we've been sculpting an hour, folks. So we've got so kind of going for an hour so far. So we're going to do a save as, and we're just going to save this. Charlie the Chupacabra. Love it. Okay. I'm going to change this hand up a bit though. Just going to scale this up a bit more. Maybe bring... No, I quite like the kind of over-the-top extended like claws. Because again, I'm thinking it's like, well, it's goats run around like mad, so you might want to have pretty big claws to stop them from running away. So, like I said, folks, we're just we are making this up as we go along. Or Cheeto. That reminds me of a TV show called I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. It's called Life in Pieces. It stars James Brolin. He's in it. So is Diane Keaton. And if you're wondering who James Brolin is, he's Thanos' dad. How many do I have on that one? That's got one. It does have 4. It's just the way I've put this together. But no, he has a little Yorkshire Terrier dog called Cheeto. Oh no, wait, no. He makes a puppet. He makes a puppet called Cheeto, and he hides it around the house for his family to find and frighten them. But yeah, if you want a good TV show, Life in Pieces is quite fun. Again, depends on your humour, but I find it quite funny. All right. So we're going to do save as again. Chupa. Trying to save as much as... Have a good evening if I'm not back before you stop for the day. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, CC. Thank you for popping in. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm trying to save as much as possible because Zbrush has been crashing a lot for me recently. I'm not sure if it's my system or if it's just me discovering new things that cause it to crash. Okay, so not sure. So I'm saving a hell of a lot now. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into the light box. I can't remember if there is any presets for this. I don't really want to make custom ones. So what I might do here, folks, is bear with me. Heard the same from other users. I haven't had that issue though. Okay, cool. I am just going to open up Maya on another screen here because I want to bring in another asset. I want to bring in an asset to use as part of this kind of diorama, if you will. Well, Maya, let's see. Come on, Maya. Hurry up. Could be due to the new file system or using custom location or the default one. I am using both, Manic. But yes, I have noticed that the new filing system has caused some issues with custom layouts. So once you switch over to it, it has a tendency to reinitialize ZBrush and it removes everything. I'm not sure. I might stick with the new file system. I may go back to my old approach of having a custom folder like I do here, which is just a shortcut, which takes me to all the assets and stuff that I use. So it could be that, but we'll see. All right, Maya is still opening. Wow, good God. Right. How are we doing over on YouTube? Let's see. Okay, seems to be good. Let's have a look. How are we doing? All the assets and stuff that I use. Yep, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, let's get Maya open. I believe I forgot to update the... I actually forgot to update something, folks, so bear with me while I fix something. I forgot to update my image for the thumbnail. There we go. So we'll fix that. There, done. I've created a junction through command prompt that moved Zbrush data folder to my D drive. Oh, right, cool. Okay. It's kind of the thing I wish that they would put into Unreal, if I'm being honest. I think Unreal would be great if you could change where things went a little bit easier. Right, folks, let me just import an asset here. So if anyone has any kind of queries or questions, feel free to ask now while I am going through and trying to find an asset here for us to bring into our, where are we? Let's see. Where was it? Environments, there we go. Here we go, folks. Bear with me, bear with me. Sorry about this. That's not what I wanted. See, this is the problem. I'm desperately trying to remember what the name of this. If I can't find it, I will just we'll just move on. But then I'll use a stand-in. But I would quite like to just use this to kind of get things going. I just need to find it. Nope, I can't find it. Oh no, wait, wait a minute, tree trunk. Let's see if this is it. No, that's not it. All right, folks, we're just going to, so that I don't waste anyone's time, we're just going to ignore that for the time being. And I'm going to go into my lightbox and see if I can find anything in here, which I can. So, or wait, clean up. That's it there. No, that's a boot base mesh. Okay. All right, folks, we're just going to make it from scratch. So I'm going to append a cylinder, and then I'm going to go down to initialize. I'm going to make myself a Q cylinder. And this is just going to give me, oops, turn off the pizza boxes for a second. There we go. How are we doing for viewers? 9 viewers already. It's a quiet stream tonight. So I'm just going to create myself a log. So we need a little bit more geometry. That's fine. We can just pop in a few more edge loops. I agree about that. Yes, it's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, you know, Unreal. It's got. I mean, there'll be a reason why that we can't do that overly easily, but it would be quite helpful if it was an option. There we go. All right. So I'm going to duplicate this, scale it down. There we go. I have a bit of a thing for broken logs. It's like one of my favorite environmental things to put into a scene. It's like to make it feel rustic and real. Let's put in a tree. So what we'll do is we'll use our Z modeler brush here. We're going to hold down Alt and select these areas here. We're going to extrude these in. No, we'll inset them. And under the tool set here, we're going to choose Polygroup All. There it is. Just bring that in. Then I'm going to grab these, and I'm just going to I'm going to Q mesh those in. There we go. I'm going to do the same at the other side. Select them, inset, bring them in, reselect those faces, and then we'll just jump over to Q mesh, push those in. Oh, oops. There we go. Try that again. Oh, weird. It is breaking there. What have I done? Probably just try to rush things a bit. So we'll insert an edge loop, and then we will inset these. Huh. Oh, I see why it's doing that. Okay. It's not a big deal. Again, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. Quite happy to have that as a broken part of the tree. So let's now dynamesh it together. Oh, too high. That's better. I'm going to grab the trim dynamic here and just kind of plane this down to make the tree. And again, sticking with what I've said at previous... Oh, there we go. Zbrush crashed. Excellent. Okay, let's open up Zbrush. Again, sorry about that, folks. I just had that feeling, you know, see how much I've lost. Oh, dang. Yeah, we've lost quite a bit. Just the tree, of course. We've not lost any of our... I'm going to check, see how far I got along with version 7. And no, 7's basically the same. So we're going to do our tree again. Let's save this as version 8. Because the other thing I've noticed as well with this new version of ZBrush is it is corrupting files. I've had 2 corruptions now on files while I've been working. So I really hope that the hotfix comes out soon. So let's redo that again. Append. Try that again. Polycylinder. There we go. Grab the cylinder. I'm going to go into initialize. This time I'm going to change the res to 4 and do a Q cylinder. All that's going to do is give us a little bit more geometry from the get-go. We do the exact same thing. Scale it down, rotate it, scale it out. And again, because I'm doing it for the second time, I'm actually thinking of better ways to do it. So, better ways to work with it. Create something a bit more visually interesting. There we go. Again, we'll control, click and drag, scale down. I'm just going to rotate this round like so, and put that into place. Okay. I'm going to save this now. I'll save this now that we've actually put the tree stump in place. Grab our Z modeler and repeat what we did before. Just going to actually select these here, try and insert them all at the same time. Save us some time. There we go. And then let's do a, there we go. Just press double. And let's Q mesh these in. And we'll maybe do a bit of a scale here as well, just so that we don't have any kind of penetration. There we go. And now we can, oh, let's jump back into the move brush, where you can start to reshape this a bit more. Couple extra edge loops. And we'll leave it at that. Go back to our base and we'll build up a little bit more snow on the inside. Crash, there we go. Okay, I had a feeling that was going to happen. So I don't know what is wrong with ZBrush, but it now crashes when you smooth. Which is kind of frustrating, because that is kind of one of the key features of ZBrush, is to be able to smooth things. So let's load up the file again. This is why I saved it. And we'll try that again. Just remember not to smooth. Okay. So we'll grab our inset, polygroup all, inset. Go back into QMesh, polygroup all. We've masked out everything we don't want, and we'll just bring that in and scale it down. There we go. You can tell what I'm going to do now. I'm going to save it again. This is because I will forget and I'll probably smooth something. I will probably smooth. What I've also noticed as well is it's certain meshes that it doesn't like that it then smooths. That when you hit smooth, it just goes, nope, don't like it, and it crashes ZBrush. So what we will do this time though is we will do the same. We will build up the snow a bit more. I'm going to be a bit gentler with it this time. And I'm not going to smooth. And the cool thing is that this is early enough that what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to export all these meshes out as individual models and take them into a new ZBrush scene, and it will probably fix the issue with the smoothing. It's not ideal, but there is always a way around this type of thing, okay? And I'm going to also indicate roughly where he's going to be stepping and standing in the snow. Jump over to our goat corpse. I'm going to save the file. In my head, I'm thinking that this Chupacabra is going to have almost like a kind of split jaw, so that when it kind of opens up to kind of feed, the jaw opens up and it's got a kind of tongue kind of coming out that might have like two pincers on it, or like a kind of sucker type thing. So it's very similar. I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from things like Blade 2 and the Strain TV shows that I'm kind of wanting to pull into this this creature. So So let's grab the damn standard here. Just an indication of what kind of damage there might be there. Lost pressure sensitivity again. There we go. Okay, save as. How are we doing for time, folks? Okay, we're coming up to we've only got about 40 minutes left. So it's turned into quite a quiet stream, so by all means, anyone that's listening, if you want to ask away, ask any questions, you can do so. Please do. If there's anything you want to know, any questions about the creature we're doing, the sculpt, anything at all. So I'm going to move the archive folder down here. I'm going to do a bit of housekeeping. Just call this log, or I'm going to call it tree. We're going to call him Cheeto, and we're going to call him Z-Sphere. And we've got our goat corpse, and we've got our scene file. Okay. So I deliberately worked on the pose of the creature, and then went away and did a little bit of work on the goat and a bit of the environment, and I did that deliberately because I want to kind of give my eyes a bit of a rest from the pose. And ideally, what I would normally do is I would save the file, and then I would probably, take a break and kind of walk away from it for a bit. Walk away from it for a bit, just to give my eyes a rest so I can come back and look at the model and go, is that working? Is it not working? And then see where we go from there. Okay. Do not switch. There we go. So what I want to do here is I'm going to I don't know if this is going to crash ZBrush or not, so let's find out. Split unmasked points. I'm going to rename that snow. And we're going to attempt to use ZBrush's dynamics, I think, for the snow on this tree, just for a bit of fun. So go back into the move brush, go into dynamics. Oh, dynamics, where is it? So we're going to do collision volume, and I'm just going to run dynamics. And you can see that as we did that, as I hit, actually I'm going to open this up to the right hand side so it's a bit easier to see. So basically, the way this works is if I turn on collision volume, ZBrush is going to look underneath this, it's going to look underneath the visible meshes, and it's going to calculate this log as a collision volume. And then if I apply things like gravity or anything like that and run the simulation, the top model or the above model is going to droop down, okay? So we don't want it to be as aggressive as this. We want to slow this down. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to drop the gravity strength like so. And I can also increase the firmness a little bit and then try again. So I'm going to do a recalc and then run sim. There we go. So that's quite cool. And now that I've done that, turn off collision volume, get rid of dynamics, and then I can go ahead and I can maybe do a bit of an inflate on this. So there's, I mean, obviously that's a really simple way to use it, but in fact, if you really want to see some of the cool things that the dynamics can do, check out Michael Pavlovich over on ZBrush Live or on his own channel, Michael Pavlovich, because his stuff is crazy. I saw somebody describe him as the Messi of ZBrush, and I would honestly agree with that. I'd call him the Da Vinci of ZBrush, but hey, you know, I'm not a football fan, so I'm going to subdivide that and start. And then what I can do with that, once it's subdivided, I'm just going to delete this subdivisions and Dynamesh it. That gives me that nice natural clump or flump to it for the snow. Oh, went back too far. Dynamesh again. Let's lower that. That's better. Make sure backface mask's on so I don't end up going through the mesh. And then we can tweak this a bit more. Okay. Let's see how this looks. See if how the image is coming together now. Yeah. But what I'll probably do off stream is I will export things out so that we have a workable file for the next time to make sure everything's working as it should. But what we will do now is I'm going to take another look at our creature, and I'm just going to tweak up a few of the limb areas. We'll look around, see if I don't even know what he's going to look like, but I like the fact that already just the pose, everything feels quite menacing. It's got the vibe that I wanted. So I'm going to, there we go, I'm going to get rid of these. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Oh, that's not, there we go. Yeah, this hand isn't working at all. I see what I've done. That's why. Again, the hands are very well, I say probably, they will definitely be redone. This is just for me to kind of figure out where why is it moving the whole thing? Oh, it's my focal shift, that's why. Oh no, wait, what's going on? Quite irritating. Oh, okay, yep, Zbrush is definitely not working the way it should at the moment. You can see here as see how, that's maybe why, there we go. There we go, I think I had symmetry on, I think that's why it was being difficult. So we might not use the, hey Pat, it won't be annoying to be annoying to sculpt with this guy in pose without symmetry. Yes, yes it will. it is going to be. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to cheat in some elements. So the body itself, quite happy. That shouldn't actually be that much of an issue to sculpt on its own. Things like it becomes difficult when you're doing things like hands and arms. Oh, thanks, Stan. Thank you. But the body and and the legs and stuff, they might be actually okay, and sometimes it can be quite beneficial to sculpt in pose because it makes you think about the anatomy a little bit different. But for things like the hands, we can sculpt them the way we would any other way. We would just sculpt them out nice and kind of symmetrical and all this kind of thing. And then we can just place them and orientate them into place using the stager tool. And once that's in place, we can still sculpt on it, jump back and forth and tweak it and still be able to work on the creature. And we can do that with the arms and the legs and even the head. So the head, we could sculpt it symmetrically. And I'll show, actually, do you know what? I'm going to show everyone what I mean by this rather than me just yammering along. So let's just save all this. And I'll show you what we're going to do over the next couple of sessions, because I think this one's going to be a longer. This is definitely not going to be a 2-week session. I think this is going to be a 3. So say for example we wanted to create a head. So I'm going to append as a sphere, a standard sphere, and I will just turn that into a Dynamesh really fast. Boom, Dynamesh. What's it giving us? Too many. So let's lower that down. Okay. Mirror and weld. Go into symmetry mode. And let's start working something up. So I'm just going to bring up one of my references here. This might not be this isn't necessarily going to be the creature, but we'll see how far we go. Now in my head for this Chupacabra, I had this idea of like a dog, like a really short snouted dog. Hello. Hello! Imrahal, how are you doing? Was kind of short snouted. Now, the description of the Chupacabra is it's got very large. Oh, and I forgot about the smooth. Oh, okay. Opening up Zbrush again. Glad to hear it. Yep, this is the thing. This needs to be fixed. Smoothing in Zbrush is crashing it constantly. So we'll start again. So, subtool. I have to remember I cannot smooth. So, sphere, grab it, and then we'll go into geometry, and we will lower that and Dynamesh it. That's fine. Mirror and weld, and we'll just use the move brush here. Okay. So as I said, I want this to be a bit of a narrower. Why did it do that? Okay. There we go. So what we want is a kind of snout-nosed, kind of canine style creature with really big eyes. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for with this. That's kind of my thinking. Because again, there's all sorts of descriptions of Chupacabras. All sorts. So, as I said, I can't smooth any of this. I'm just going to have to. So I've got reference here of a few different animals. So I'm going to use that as my example here. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is that's actually causing the smooth to crash everything. I have a feeling it's a very particular set of instructions that you do in a certain order that's then crashing it, because it doesn't happen all the time. So it's definitely certain circumstances, but it has happened now to several models of mine. And I thought originally it was bringing them in from the older update of Zbrush, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So what I might do tonight is I might install the older version of Zbrush and then go through a very tedious process of transferring my current model files into that version, which might be harder. Easier said than done. So I can't smooth. This is quite frustrating. So say for example, we were just working away on our creature, and it's kind of looking like a bit of a dinosaur at the moment, but that's all right. It's a cryptid. It's not supposed. He's supposed to look quite messed up. What I also might do, folks, is I might actually just fully uninstall ZBrush tonight and do a full clean reinstall. That might actually fix things. Sometimes your software will freak out when you do an upgrade and it's going through the upgrade path. It can sometimes get confused if there's been previous versions on the system. So I'm going to do that before I assume that it's a full-on bug. Okay, so that's pretty awful looking, but it'll do for our demonstration purposes. So if we were just sculpting in pose, like we are doing with this model, and we did want to be able to work on part of the character without with symmetry and be able to kind of speed up our workflow a little bit, then this is how I would kind of personally do it. First of all, I'm going to do something like this. There we go. See, just slight change of heart there on how I want this to look. So I kind of like went for a kind of very skull looking shape, or very kind of écorché look for the creature. And then I'm just going to take the insert mesh brush here, very quickly, just pop in a couple of those large eyes. Okay. And again, we're going for I can't do that. There we go. So take them out. What time are we at? Okay, 20 minutes. Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. So we'll split on mass points. And that's going to allow me to smooth out the eyes and back. Fortunately for you, that means that you're no longer allowed to have a good evening. Not at all, CZ, not at all. Good to have you back. Thank you. We've discovered that we're now no longer allowed to smooth in ZBrush because it keeps crashing every time I do. So that's fun. And we're just going through at the moment how we're going to sculpt symmetrically, but then get our character back into pose as well. So I'm going to fix this nose. I don't like it. It's bugging me. Yes, I know. Again, it's really frustrating. I think I've decided I'm going to reinstall Zbrush tonight and see if that fixes it. So let's grab the standard brush here. So as you can see, we're working symmetrically at the moment. All right. We are working symmetrically. I don't even know what I'm making at this point, but yeah, this is currently what our Chupacabra is going to look like. I want to split down the, I want to have a split down the jaw. Okay. Try not to get bogged down because this is just a demo, folks, just to show you how we're going to make this work. All right. All right, Cheeto, you're looking a little bit manic, but at least you look a little bit creepy, so... Grab the dram standard here, and... What's this? I would imagine this guy would walk his 2 feet, and when he sees something burst into what adjustments? What adjustments would you consider? If you imagine this guy would walk on his 2 feet, and when he sees something, he burst into a run, I guess, what adjustments would you consider adding onto it? Well, if he's a character that can walk bipedally, but can also kind of go into a run, I would have longer limbs. You know, longer forelimbs, really. Is kind of what I would do, probably. There we go. See, this is the problem, folks. I was like, yeah, I'll just knock out a quick sketch, but now my brain's kind of like, oh, I wouldn't mind adding this, or doing this, or this is maybe what he might look like. I've always liked characters that are creatures that kind of have the very kind of sinewy, kind of almost skeletal look to the face. Okay. Let's do a quick save as, because I really don't want to accidentally hit the smooth brush and then it all disappears. Okay, we have 15 minutes left, folks. So I'm now going to show you what I was meaning by how this is going to work. So I'm going to do a merge down. Actually, before we do that, we're going to fill the eyes with red. So we're going to do the toy plastic shader. And we're going to fill these eyes. I'm going to go to MRGB, fill object. So that's going to take the material and it's going to take the color and it's going to fill those. That's a bit dark, so we'll just try and go halfway house. There we go. So now when I switch back to white and change my material type back to the basic, we get something that looks like that. And actually, while we're at it, I'm going to do save as, and 18, there we go. I've actually made my own custom material that I've been trying out. So I'm going to go into my materials here, and it's actually a version of another material that I got, but I've been really enjoying using it as a sculpting material. So I'm going to make it a little bit brighter for everyone. So I'm just going to increase that intensity ever so slightly. That's the wrong intensity. There we go. And just lower this one. There we go. So hopefully this makes him look even creepier than before. There we go. So now that we've got that, we can do I'm going to delete the subdivisions in these eyes, and I'm going to do a merge down. Okay, it's fine. They're going to it's going to keep the it will keep the subdivision, not subdivision, sorry, the polygroup. So we can always separate it later if we need to. And I'm now going to drag that back down. There we go. Lightbox. There we go. Okay. Do you sometimes sculpt in real life with clay or plasticine or mainly ZBrush when you're chilling playing? I used to. I used to do a lot of clay sculpture just as a hobby, and I did it at university as well. I've used things like Super Sculpey at my desk just to kind of like noodle away with stuff and things, but no, I don't really consider myself really great at clay sculpture or traditional sculpture, but I do enjoy working with it. I enjoy working with my hands and the kind of metal armatures and things. It's definitely something I would recommend if you want to get into, if you want to learn about sculpture, then you should do it traditionally. You should pick up a class. It's a very good way to learn, particularly about things like gravity. You know, real world forces, what that has effect that has on your model. Okay, so let's bring everything back. And this is what we have. Now, as I was saying, we don't need to, Stan Hoss was asking about how annoying it will be to sculpt with his character impose. And he's spot on. This would be really frustrating to kind of have to work with, okay? But that's what I was saying, is that what we can do here is we can sculpt our head symmetrically, okay? I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to show you how all this works. So I've got my Chupacabra, I've got Cheeto's head up here. I'm going to go down until I find the geometry tab here in the tool palette, open that up, and then go down to Stager, and I'm going to press the Home Stage button, okay? So what that's done is, ZBrush has now loaded it's saved the position and the scale of my character here, or my object there. Next, I can go in and I can now move this, and I can now rotate it to match and scale it down. So now we can get that into the position that we want. I'm just going to increase the size of its head a bit just so that we can see that. There we go. And then once I'm happy, oops, what did I do there? Ah, there we go. So once I'm happy with the positioning of that, in that same folder, under Geometry, under Stager, we'll hit Target Stage. Now, if I hit the switch stage button here, it's going to jump between the two stages, like that. And what's great about this is I can make a change, because it's just remembering the translation and the translation, rotation, and scale. I can go in and make a change here if I wanted to, and I can maybe say, right, I'm going to change the eyes a bit. So I'll mask out the head, and I'm going to bring the brows forward a bit more. Maybe bring them down like that. Add a bit of add a little bit of detail in here. What is going on today with my ZBrush? Ah, okay. Let me just undo all that. Change the size of the head here. Maybe adjust the zygomatic, the cheekbone. There we go. So once I've done that, if I go back to switch stage, it will remember all those changes that I've done. Okay. So obviously I don't want the head to be that big. I actually want the head to be probably closer to, probably closer to this size. Yeah, actually no, I want it to be the size that I've kind of outlined here, but we can't see it because of the our Z-spheres. So what we can do there is, to see what this actually could look like, we're going to take our Cheeto Z-sphere here, we're going to duplicate it, hide it, and then I can go in and with the draw, I can just remove some of these. There we go. And now, with that duplicate, I've got a better idea of how his head's going to be. We can even scale down that section there. And there we go. So we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping here. So I'm going to go Cheeto Z-sphere, that's the original, and I'm going to call this one no head. Okay. We've got our snow, we've got our tree. We're going to actually delete we're going to delete all from that folder because I don't want it anymore. And we're going to call this head concept. There we go. So we've got the tree, we've got everything in place. Let's bring everything back, hide that Z-sphere, and there we go. So again, this is a really rough, it looks really dull with the head and bodies. Thank you, appreciate that value. What I would like to do is I'm just going to hold shift and tap on the paintbrush. What this will do is it will lighten up everything. You'll notice that in ZBrush, normally it's only the head that you've got, or the item that you have selected, that's going to be highlighted. So if you hold the shift key and tap the paintbrush, it's going to brighten everything up, give you a better idea of how everything is looking. So we're going to do another save. And we haven't, I mean, I would say we've done quite a lot in the last couple of hours. We've figured out our character pose, roughly what he's going to do. We've given him a bit of a diorama to work in, and we've even done a very, very rough idea of what he might look like. He will probably change. Let's be fair here. He may change, but we're at least getting somewhere. And obviously, we can do this same technique with the head, with every part of the body. Okay, but chances are what we'll probably do is we'll probably kind of just knock out the body and the legs and the tail. Maybe do those as just one piece and sculpt it, because again it's in pose. Maybe even the arms. I quite like to do the arms, and then the hands we'll do in the same way we did the head. Then we'll position them manually. So, and obviously we're going to have to do something about our goat, because the goat is, you know what, I'm going to be really quite sick here, folks. We have to make sure that people know that the goat is dead. So we're going to, there we go. The goat is dead. Okay. One final save. And that will be us for this evening, folks. So, you're killing me already. I want to thank everybody for coming along this evening. It's been great having everyone here. Please remember to check out the socials for Firestorm Studio, the Discord, Instagram, YouTube, and of course Twitch. And if you have any queries or questions regarding the streams, you can reach out to us on the Discord. I'll be back sculpting this next week. It'll be my final week before the Christmas holidays, and then I'll be back over on the 29th. But you can also catch me on my personal stream, which is twitch.tv/br3d, and you'll catch me on a Wednesday evening from 7 o'clock onwards. So until then, folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, look after each other, and have a good one. Bye for now.